This is just plain Bill, and this is thoughts while thinking, and these opinions are mine. And this year we got a election that hadn't happened for 200 years. We've got a former president running against a sitting president, and that hadn't happened since 1824. Think about what kind of deal we're looking at. Well, we're going to give it a little bit of a thought and a little comparison, and I hope you enjoy watching.
Of 1824 in my series, A Push in 1 Minute Daily. The end of the era of good feelings was clearly demonstrated in the election of 1824, as it was the last presidential election, with all candidates being from the Democratic-Republican Party. While Jackson won the most electoral and popular votes, he did not secure enough to win the presidency. Thus, the decision went to the House of Representatives. After many of Clay's supporters shifted their endorsement to Adams, Adams was certified as the next president of the United States. Then Adams selected Clay to be the next Secretary of State. Furious, Jackson accused Clay and Adams of a corrupt bargain and claimed the election had been stolen from him. He used this as a major part of his campaign strategy in the next election. In the controversial election of 1824, John Quincy Adams won the presidency despite Andrew Jackson winning the most popular and electoral votes. The House of Representatives declared Adams to be the victor after Clay's supporters shifted their endorsements. Join me tomorrow as I explain the expansion of democracy in the next A Push in 1 Minute Daily.
Well, that was 1824, and we're going to look now a little bit at 2024 and the election we got coming up now, and it seems like there's a lot of comparison here, and I appreciate you looking at it.
The expected rematch between President Biden and former President Donald Trump is happening.
We're effectively in a general election now. That's just unprecedented in a lot of ways. There's just so many unknowns.
While Biden faces obstacles like concerns about his age and declining approval ratings, Trump is juggling a set of challenges that no presidential candidates have ever confronted. Here's a look at those challenges and how Trump will try to turn them into opportunities. The 2024 election is gearing up to be a face-off between the oldest nominees in history. And it's going to be the first presidential rematch in the U.S. since 1956, when President Dwight Eisenhower faced and defeated Adlai Stevenson for the second time.
The result was never in doubt. It was a landslide for the Eisenhower-Nixon ticket.
We know from polling and just talking to voters around the country that people are really kind of weary about the notion of a Trump-Biden matchup, but that's what we're going to have. It's going to be all-consuming, I think, for the American public.
The race is now an endurance challenge for both candidates after Trump easily beat out his Republican rivals, including Ron DeSantis and Nikki Haley.
Donald Trump's strength really shows how much of a hold he has on the party's base, the core voters. They are willing to swing with his different positions on issues that aren't always aligned with a certain feeling that's been long baked into the Republican Party. He didn't dabble much or tangle much with his rivals. Trump never got on the debate stage with his rivals. He felt he didn't have to. Why should he? We don't know his positions, for example, on some of the key foreign policy matters, like the war in the Middle East. So it's sort of kept him out of the scrutiny of political discourse. So it worked out well for him.
Trump's 2024 started off pretty busy, from campaign events to court hearings.
I'm going to have to sit here for months on a trial.
And sometimes those two things lined up on back-to-back days in very different locations. On February 14th, Trump spoke at a campaign rally in North Charleston, South Carolina.
Well, thank you very much, South Carolina, and happy Valentine's Day, everybody.
The next day, he was in New York for a hearing over his alleged role in a scheme to pay hush money to a porn star.
I'll be here during the day and I'll be campaigning during the night.
Trump has tried and has had some success so far marrying the two. Essentially, the campaign and the courtroom are the same. We've seen him when he goes to court, often speaking to reporters, making sure his voice is heard.
It's election interference at the highest level. It's a disgrace.
And kind of plowing ahead with his message that this is all designed to stop him politically.
I stand before you today not only as your past and hopefully future president, but as a proud political dissident.
That is going to be more difficult, of course, as these cases really take hold, that's going to start to really eat into his ability to be out there on the campaign trail.
The legal trials have also drained his political coffers. In 2023, Trump's campaign spent roughly $50 million on legal fees. And between 2 New York civil lawsuits plus interest, the former president was ordered to shell out more than $500 million in financial penalties.
The spending for Trump on legal fees is a real open question, whether he can sustain the amount of money that he is devoting towards these cases, his lawyers, and defending himself. He does have the ability to raise a lot of money. Every time he's going to court, every time he leaves court, they fire off a campaign email asking for more money, saying that it's not just himself that's being persecuted, but his supporters. He's very good at personalizing what he's undergoing with his own supporters, and a lot of people feel that way, and they give more money.
While Trump has performed well in the GOP primaries, some warning signs indicate that voter enthusiasm for his return to the White House appears to be waning. In early state elections in Iowa and New Hampshire, nearly half of primary voters didn't vote for Trump. And when asked how they would feel if he became the nominee, many of the non-Trump voters in New Hampshire said they'd be so dissatisfied that they wouldn't vote for him in the general election.
Trump can't afford to lose too many Republican voters. He's trying to pull voters back into his fold and new voters by promising effectively a return to relative economic prosperity that marked his first term until COVID. The downside is that the economy is improving in a lot of ways for Joe Biden. We're going to see a lot of battles over who can sustain this growth that we're seeing.
Biden, as the sitting president whose approval ratings continue to drop, has his own challenges ahead. One of Biden's most striking vulnerabilities has come under intense scrutiny after a special counsel report investigating his mishandling of classified documents made several strong claims about his memory.
Something the special counsel said in his report is that one of the reasons you were not charged is because, in his description, you are a well-meaning elderly man with a poor memory.
I'm well-meaning, and I'm an elderly man, and I know what the hell I'm doing. I've been president, and I put this country back on its feet.
Age and mental acuity is one of the big issues facing Joe Biden and his attempts to win a second term. We see it poll after poll that Americans, Democrats, Republicans, Independents, think he is too old. That's why we've seen such an aggressive attempt by the White House and Democrats to sort of frame it in different ways.
I'm absolutely confident, based on his incredible record of success for the country, that he is the right person to lead the country for another 4 years.
Age isn't the only concern. More than half of the country thinks Biden's policies during his presidency have hurt more than they've helped. The face-off between Trump and Biden will test the stamina of both candidates and the voters. Polling has shown that a majority of Americans think neither Biden nor Trump should run for president again in 2024.
It's going to be a long, long slog, one that a lot of Americans just don't want to happen, but it's happening. It's going to be an unprecedented, wild ride to the finish here, and we're all going to...
Well, that is election 200 years later, and I appreciate you watching. I appreciate you subscribing. And it's adios, amigos.